An attempt to turn around the financial sector. Here in Washington, the chairman of the Senate Banking Committee has drawn up a bill to place more regulation both on banks and change the role of the Federal Reserve. But even if this legislation moves forward, will it prevent another financial collapse? Here to weigh in is Gerald Celente, director of the Trends Research Institute. Mr. Celente, it seems like an effort to not only draw up a set of rules, but to require major firms to finally play by those rules. What do you think about this?
Well, if the Federal Reserve is in charge of monitoring this, let's look at the great job that they did in monitoring the panic of '08. They didn't see it coming. They didn't do anything to prevent it if they did see it coming. So it's not even the fox watching the chicken coop. It's the fox watching other foxes. Nothing is going to happen. This is all talk. The only outcome is going to be how little action is going to come from this big talk. It's not going to make a bit of difference in the long run or the short term.
So you're saying that the whole point of this legislation to prevent another financial collapse is not going to work.
How's it going to work? Once again, the people are in charge of not having another financial collapse happen are the same people that are in charge when it happened. So how are they going to fix it?
Well, I mean, I guess it could be argued that people do learn from their mistakes, right?
Yeah, I guess, you know, it's like putting Bugsy Siegel or Al Capone in charge of law enforcement. You know, we have to be real about this. You know, I've narrowed down what's going on in the United States to 6 simple words. Princeton, Harvard, Yale, bullets, bombs, and banks. It all goes back to the same thing. It's one big circle.
I'm curious what you think in terms of what's next then, since obviously, in your opinion, this bill isn't going to change anything. What's next? Will we just be heading toward another financial collapse?
Yes, the crash of 2010 is going to happen, as we're forecasting. All the stimulus money from around the world is drying up, and what are they going to do for an encore? You need a productive capacity. You can't print your way out of this. So whether it's China, India, the UK, Japan just announced today more stimulus money. At some point, the stimulus game runs out and the crash happens. That's what we're looking for. The Federal Reserve or anybody else in the United States Congress isn't going to stop it from happening. How can anybody look for the government to do anything sensible? Look what they've done with education. Look what they've done in fighting wars. Everything that they touch, they turn into disaster. They have Katrina quality rescue skills, whether it's the economy or health care.
I want to switch gears now for a second. There seems to be another battle brewing between the United States and China, this one financial. China wants to set a fixed rate for its currency, the yuan. According to some leaders in the United States, though, China is undervaluing its currency, which could, in the opinion of many people here, lead to various global economic problems. Now, China, of course, disagrees. I want to hear your take on this.
Well, this is from our Trends Journal, the top trends for 2010. Not made in China. We had forecast trade wars would happen this year. This came out in early January. The yuan is being blamed because they say it's undervalued in enabling China to export more because their currency is so cheap. And the rationale is that if the yuan is worth more, then the balances of trade will equalize across the global landscape. It's not the way it works. You have to look what's really going on with China and why the imbalance of trade is so great. There are 150 million Chinese that are living on $1 a day. When you look at the per capita GDP of China, it ranks 104th behind such luminaries as Iraq, Georgia, and the Republic of the Congo. China is beating the world on trade because it's beating it on wages. It's a totalitarian government that's tightly controlled. All this talk about letting the yuan float and equalization is going to happen, again, it equates to the talk about financial regulations. And let's not also forget that since the end of World War II to roughly 1971, the world currencies were pegged by the Bretton Woods Agreement. So currencies are pegged. They don't always float.
I'm curious what you think about, President Obama has said he wants to increase U.S. exports. So you're saying that it has nothing to do with the value of China's currencies, whether the United States will be able to increase or, even as President Obama says, double exports. What, if you're given the advice here, what do you tell the president in terms of making that a realistic goal, increasing exports out of this country?
Build an internal manufacturing capability. What they've done is the major corporations in the United States and other countries have offshored to China. They get it made in a cheap labor country, and then they ship it back and mark up the prices. It's not as though China's making all of this stuff. It's U.S. companies and other companies from around the world that are getting it made there. You bring your production back home. And that's how you build a country's economy. It's not about buying at the bottom line. It's about building an internal infrastructure of growth and production. It's as simple as that. This isn't fair trade or free trade. Again, it merely means getting your product made in another country at slave labor wages and shipping it back and marking up the price.
Seems like a tough thing to tell companies to do that have been relying on that cheap labor for so many years. Gerald, Celente, thank you so much.
Thank you.